Latest football news,
engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George. Well. Good to see you for another week of football action. And this week, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Dan. Dan, how are you doing, mate? It's been a cold week, I could say. I'm absolutely freezing at the moment here.
Yeah, it has been cold, hasn't it? Yeah, I'm doing okay. Not happy with the football, as we'll get into in a minute, but I'm doing all right.
Yeah, not a good week for football, but we will get into it when we can. So coming up, we got our social medias. Yes, Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows. So what's coming up today? We're going to be talking about Ipswich Town. We had a double bill, 2 games at home against 2 promotion rivals. I wonder how they went. We know how promotion rivals have been this season. We've got the 4th round of the FA Cup, which will quickly go through some results. And we're going to be talking about Chelsea, because it's kind of been a big week for Chelsea, really, with managers. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town. But at the moment, I think I'm going to be running from cover, because I think Dan's going to get a little bit angry.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And Dan, before we move on, talk about Ipswich Town, the big double bill. I better mention the social medias before we get into that juicy content, which is going to be fun. I wish your face cam was on, but unfortunately it isn't. For all the listeners, unfortunately, Dan doesn't have his face cam thing on, and it's sad because I would like to see how angry what sorts of colours he would go. But we've got social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows. Now, Ipswich Town. It's been a big week for Ipswich Town, on and off the pitch, but we'll get into that a bit more later in the show. But starting with the football, 2 big fixtures at home. But Saturday started off badly as Peterborough got a 1-0 victory. As Mark McGuinness grows from hero to zero in the space of one game. But Dan, another awful, poor, toothless performance by Town. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. It's another terrible performance once again. Same every single week, and it showed because I've never seen a game where the opposition team didn't have a single shot on target and still won the game. How does that happen?
I know.
Yeah, I know. We didn't show any fight. We didn't have any attacking threat. Once again, the same story as every single week. I just think, we're lacking strikers at the moment, and all we've got is Drinan, really, haven't we? Or Drinan, however you pronounce his name. He's up front by himself, and he won't get you goals. He just won't. He's not that type of player. I do feel sorry for him a little bit, and I know our fans, they don't really rate him very highly. He's got a lot of critics. But I think it's difficult to come in and just fit in quickly, like that. He's kind of been put in the deep end. I think he's had loan spells at other clubs, and I don't think he's done too badly. But yeah, horrible mistake by McGuinness for the goal. It was just painful to watch. It really was, and it's just so horrible to watch. I don't enjoy watching football anymore, which is a problem. And of course, to top it off, Nsiala does what he does best, gives away a penalty. Although he hasn't done too bad since he came back. I know he's injured now, but once again, he gives away a penalty. Terrible performance, awful result again. And I just don't know how long this will go on for. It's been loss after loss after loss, and I just don't know how long Evans can keep this manager at the club, because it's going too far now. So yeah, terrible performance, lacked any quality, and we're dropping further outside the playoffs now, aren't we?
Yeah, unfortunately it's just hard. But Dan, I'm going to apologise here in advance, because I think this is going to not be a nice section. But Paul Abbott spoke after the game, and he said it was a really good game. I thought we were really good. I was really proud of the way that we worked. I could not ask for any more. We was on the front foot. I could not ask for any more. But I just don't know what the heck he's seeing because I know Ipswich Town had more shots than Peterborough. Like you said there, Peterborough had no shots on target, but they still won the game and they missed a penalty. But did this feel like a copy and paste performance? Because we've seen a lot of this performance before this season with Ipswich Town. But Chambo spoke in the interview and he said that it wasn't good enough. It looks like that the managers and the player are so out of touch here, but something's not right here.
No, it all seems wrong, doesn't it? The fact that Chambers came out and contradicted what he said, but the comments that Lambert made, it just shows how delusional he is, really, doesn't it? I mean, what is he seeing that everyone else isn't? I don't understand. We were so poor against Peterborough, and he just comes out with all this nonsense, doesn't he? Just this nonsense about how we're playing well. I don't know how we can see that. It's good to have a manager that's honest. We didn't play well. The manager has to come out and acknowledge that, but he just blatantly lies to the cameras. How can he think that we played well in that game? Because it was awful. I don't know if he's in denial or if he actually thinks we're playing well, then there is definitely something wrong because it's just awful at the moment. So yeah, just terrible comments from him. It's just him and Evans that think we're playing well, isn't it? No one else at the club can see what we're trying to do. And then for the captain, the captain of the club to come out and contradict everything that Lambert said, there has to be something wrong in the changing rooms at the moment. It keeps happening, doesn't it? Players keep coming out. There's clues starting to appear that suggest that the players aren't happy. The fact that Chambers came out and said stuff like that. He hasn't had a very good season himself. He had a decent start. He's kind of dropped off, but he came out and said it weren't good enough. But the fact that Lambert still comes out and says we play well, it's just awful, and he's delusional. And I hope his time is up soon, but can you really see it happening? I just can't. The fact that Evans keeps coming out and supporting him, but it's so obvious that we need a change, but it's just not going to happen, is it?
No, unfortunately, it's not happening at the moment because Ipswich Town had another game. They had a game in midweek, another promotion rival in Sunderland, and Ipswich slumped to another home defeat, a 1-0 loss. Ipswich down to 10 men. That's the 6th loss they've had at home in the last 7 games, Dan. It's not looking better and better when you read the stats, and the stats don't lie, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But just thoughts on that game, because it was another poor game, really, but it just did go down to 10 men. So
yeah, but it was still just nothing again, wasn't it? We didn't look like we were going to score. Even when 10 men, you could at least attack teams, but we didn't play a striker until I can't remember when Drilling came on. Probably on the
54th minute.
54. Okay, it was earlier than I thought it was, but it was just nothing again. I think the worrying thing is, especially in the first half, I thought we fought and were more organised than we are with 11 men. I don't understand how that happens, really. Obviously, yeah, the Jackson tackle, it was horrible. That was, you just can't do that, can you? And I'm surprised that I think it was Bailey Wright, the defender. He came away with no injuries, because that could easily, break something in his leg. So, that's definitely a red card. We can't have complaints about that. And he came out and apologised, so fair enough. But I still think that red card is being used as an excuse by Lambert. He came out after the game. He was just talking about how that red card was poor. It's just an excuse, isn't it? It's an excuse to why we lost, because do we really think that if that didn't happen, we would have got anything from that game? I don't, because we still didn't show anything at all to suggest that we would have gone and won the game. We were okay. We were organised, but it's still not good enough. It's still a loss, and it doesn't matter if it's down to 10 men. It was still such a poor game. Both sides lack quality. Sunderland, they didn't look any good either. They scored a goal which was awful defensively. I think you watched the game, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have seen this. Both centre backs went over to the right hand side. People are blaming Dizelle for that, but there's no way you can blame Dizelle for that. I think Ward is caught out of position on the right hand side, which he's 35. McGuinness goes over to cover him. But Wolfenden, what is he doing? What is he doing going over as well? He leaves White free. Chambers doesn't come over, and it's a goal. So terrible defensively once again. And I'm just fed up with it, George. I really am. It's just dragging on, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, it's another loss. You know, the media are now calling for his head. And did you see the response from the club as well?
Yes.
They did a response. It was about 2 paragraphs talking about how, I don't know, we're disappointed at this newspaper stance and we still have the support of the manager. But I do think, what the clubs think of us, you know, from the outside, because any other club, in probably in the whole world, Lambert would have been gone 6 months ago. It's just staggering to me how he can still be here. You know, I do not understand how we can still go on, you know, getting these results. And, you know, I don't know what Evans is going on, really. You know, he's surely results. Football is a results business. It doesn't matter how well you play. It's a results business. And we're not getting results. We're losing every single week. We're dropping off. We're now 5 points off 6th place. 5 points. I don't know how many off second. But I just think that it's just getting too far now. And, you know, I just think that it's obvious that Evans won't sack him. So I just think Evans needs to resign because not Evans, Lambert needs to resign because to me it doesn't feel like Lambert wants to be here. He has no passion for the club. You know, he's just getting paid a lot of money, so he's staying. You know, he cares more about Celtic than his own club. You know, he's fine coming out and talking about Celtic all the time. But I just think we need a new manager as soon as possible, as everyone does. Because at this moment in time, I still think there's time to save our season. But the season is not going to be saved with Lambert in charge. You know, we're getting through halfway through the season. Crew, I think, is halfway through the season now. I think it's 23 games, the Crew game. I know we've got, you know, we're still ending the season. It's mad that we're nearly going into February, and that's halfway through the season, and we're ending in May. So, you know, the schedule is going to be really tight. But under Lambert, we're going nowhere, are we? So a new manager needs to come in ASAP, but I have absolutely no confidence that that's going to happen.
Yeah, concerning times at Ipswich Town. I think, if I remember correctly, it's 13 points off first and 13 points off the top of the relegation battle, if I'm correct. I think that's 21st, isn't it, the relegation battle in League One?
It is.
Yeah. So, yeah, concerning times at Ipswich Town, but I think the biggest moment of that game was the red card, Kane Jackson's red card, straight red. Horrible tackle. There's no denying it. Even he said there's no denying it. On Twitter, he apologised. But he's now out for the next 3 games. So that's no Norwood, no Hawkins now. So there's 3 strikers out. There's only 2 there at the club at the moment, Dryden and Sears fit. And only 1 goal between them this whole season. I think they've played 21 games between them. I think it's 9 for Dryden and 12 for Sears. That's not good, especially with Ipswich Town side struggling for goals at the moment and still struggling for creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And the injury situation is just ridiculous. It's getting to a point now where surely there's got to be something wrong with our you know, the sports science side. I know people don't really like talking about that, but it's true though. The amount of injuries we get is ridiculous. Obviously Jackson's out for 3 games, absolutely no complaints there. Horrible tackle, but you know, Norwood, he just randomly starts coming back in the side often, and then his hamstring goes. Hawkins is injured, so we've got 1 fit striker, Drinham, because Sears, he can play up front, but will Lambert play him there? You know, he came on against Sunderland for the last 4 minutes, which is absolutely completely pointless. But he didn't play up front, I don't think. You know, he kept the same system really, I think, or he was just told to play anywhere. But Sears can play that role, but it's just this system doesn't work. And there's no goals between them. I look at the games ahead and I think, where are the goals going to come from? Because, as you said, Drinnan doesn't score goals. They've scored one goal between them this season. I know Sears has been injured for a while, but it's still not good enough. And it's now what? It's the 28th of January when we're recording this. It's the end of the transfer window in a couple of days, and we have one fit striker. What are we doing as a club? Like, it's embarrassing to say that, isn't it? It's so embarrassing to say that. And we bought, in this transfer window, we bought Luke Thomas and Josh Harrop. I said at the time they're good signings, but I thought about it, and do we really need them? Really? We've got players in them positions already. We've already got players in them positions. We needed a striker and a fullback because we're lacking in them positions. It's obvious. No disrespect to them players, obviously, because, Thomas, he looks like he's having an effect, and Harrop hasn't played yet. We need to see what he's like. But I still don't think we've really needed any additions in them positions. So, as I said, the injury situation is ridiculous. And we go into these big games coming up with one striker fit, or two if you include Sears in that. So, yeah, it's worrying times.
Yes, worrying times. You said that about a fullback. Well, he went on loan to Fleetwood, and he's now got 2-man match performances in 2 games. So that's where your fullback is.
It sums it up, doesn't it? It sums it up. I don't know why we didn't keep him. I really don't.
Nobody knows. But as we've sort of been talking about in the show already, and you sort of mentioned, it has been a very busy week for the club on and off the pitch. A very intense week. Playing 2 big games against promotion rivals, but also the local papers questioning Lambert's future. I think it's the second time in their 144th year or something like that they've ever put an Ipswich Town manager on the front lines questioning his future. And the stats don't lie, Dan. Only 4 wins against the top 10 in 28 games across 2 seasons. I think 16 of them been losses. Played 8 times against. I think they lost 7. Well, actually, no, sorry, I can't remember now. The stat for playing top 7, they've lost 8 times already against the top 7 this season. No wins, no draws. 9 points from the last 11 games. 6 of them have come against Burton Albion. A 33 win percent ratio under Paul Lambert, 107 games, and it's not looking good. If we have to sort of be blatantly obvious here, it's not looking good, and this is kind of worrying times for Town, really, because Evans is backing the manager. He's still there, even though fans want him out, and you've been saying for I think a few months now about him. It was sort of, and last season as well, when everything was sort of falling apart around Ipswich Town, and he's still there. But this is concerning times because, like I said, the 13 points off a relegation battle and the 13 points off first. That's good.
No, it's not. And it's 13 points. We've still got 23 games left this season. That is worrying. It really is. Because if we keep losing games and teams around us win, we'll drop into that mid-table, and who knows where we could go from there. There's still loads of games to go. So I'm super worried where we're going with this, because it worries me that our owner, still backs the manager. As you said, the results, it's just, it's the worst run of form I've ever seen. I think his win percentage is the worst since, I think it was the Premier League season in 1994, this run. Yeah. I think it's the worst run since Premier League season in 1993-94. We went down that year from the Premier League. We got relegated. So I cannot think why Evans is keeping him at the club. I really don't. People are calling Evans out. It's not going to happen. He's keeping this club afloat, no matter how much we dislike him. If he's not here, then there's so much debt at this club that who knows what could happen. But we have a manager who is technically inept and who blatantly lies his way through games, and it's just getting too much now. It's just getting too much. You know, the fans, well, they turned on him early last year, maybe even before that. Some fans wanted him out. The media are now against him. Everyone is against him. So I just don't understand why he's still here. COVID has saved his job, hasn't it? It really has. You know, imagine if fans are in the stadium now. It'll be the most toxic atmosphere I've ever witnessed. You know, things were toxic under Mick. I think this would be worse. I think this is dragging on too far now, and I am seriously worried where this club is going. And what goals Marcus Evans has for the future? What is his ambition? Because, you know, in his first, he came out at the start of the year and said, "We want top two." He came out, a few months later, said, you know, we were dropping off the top two going into playoffs. We're 2 points off the top two. That was what he said. You know, time goes on. We drop out of the playoffs. Then he says, "I'm keeping this manager because we're 2 points off the playoffs." What is he wanting out of this season? You know, he's not making it clear. Does he want top two or does he want top six? He should set out a plan of what he wants. You know, there is absolutely no plan and no ambition at this club. And if he keeps this manager at this club, then that only enforces that, because the manager doesn't care. That goes on to the players. They aren't performing. It's just, it is depressing, this club, and it's a disgrace. It really is. You know, I cannot believe how far this club has dropped, and it's sad to see it.
I think what's crazy is this weekend against Crewe, if they lose to Crewe Alexander, they could drop to possibly 12th place. And last season they finished 11th, didn't they, on the points per game system? That's already concerning, that they could be there already lower than where they finished last season. That's the scary thing, I think, if you think about it. Yes. But moving on to tomorrow, Ipswich Town are on the road against Crewe Alexander. The surprise package, I think we can say, this season, currently sitting 9th in League One, promoted from League Two last season. But last 5 games, they've only got 6 points, and the last time they played, they lost 4-1 to Gillingham. But the concerning thing is that the last 7 games at home, they have been unbeaten, 5 wins and 2 draws. And the last time these two sides met, Ipswich Town won 1-0 thanks to an Ollie Hawkins goal, if I remember correctly. His first goal for Ipswich Town, I think his only goal for Ipswich Town.
Yes, it was.
Correct. Yeah, how time has passed. But Dan, Ipswich, can they put these 2 last results behind them and kick on, finally get something from this game, or Crewe just going to continue their unbeaten streak and just add more misery to Ipswich Town season already, which could be 12th place?
Yeah, as always, I have absolutely no confidence at all. It seems like, you know, I talk about the same thing every time we do, you know, preview the next game. Because that's how it is, and that's how depressing it is. You know, coming up against Crewe, they're probably the best team I've seen at Portman Road this season. You know, they pass it around really well, and I can't remember their player who's really good on the left-hand side. I can't remember his name right now. Kirk, his name is. He's a really good player, so it worries me seeing them play so well. We won that game somehow. You know, that was one of them games that we scraped through. So coming into this game away in Crewe, they've just come off a 4-1 defeat to Gillingham. They want to bounce back from that. We're performing awfully, so I've got no confidence. I'm going to have to predict a loss again. I hate doing it, but I'm going to have to. It's going to be a 1-0 to Crewe, I'm afraid.
Oh, no, a good score prediction there from Dan. Let us know what you think on Twitter at Pitchside Talk. What do you think is going to happen to Ipswich Town in the next few weeks? And what's going to happen in this game. But when we come back, we're going to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted. We're going to move on to something nicer, I think. The FA Cup 4th round. The FA Cup, you know, we love the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And let's see what happened in the 4th round.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan, as always. And now, before we get moving on, talking about the FA Cup 4th round, I better mention social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk on Score Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, or even this one. If you missed anything, don't worry, it'll be up 6 p.m. at Friday. If you missed Dan talk about Ipswich Town, as we all know, we love Dan talking about Ipswich Town and try not to get too angry with them. You can have a listen back on YouTube. Well done. This week we had the 4th round of the FA Cup, and we had some big teams getting knocked out in this round. So let's start off with Arsenal, the holders, the most successful team in the competition, won't be adding or defending this year's FA Cup after a 1-0 defeat to Southampton. Well, this be quite disappointing to Arsenal, really, getting an early exit out of the FA Cup, being the winners. They went out to an own goal from Gabriel. But, you know, this is going to be quite hard for them because they usually like to go and do well in the FA Cup. It is called the Emirates FA Cup for a reason, we all know. But we're going to have something different win the FA Cup this year, which is going to be kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is. I think Arsenal will definitely be disappointed with that because their season, they've kind of come back on their season now, haven't they? They're doing quite well in the league now, but it's still going to be tough to get where they want to be in the league. So they'll want to, do well in the FA Cup to, they always seem to win the FA Cup, don't they? So it's going to be disappointing for them. It was a poor game. That was one of the games that I watched. It was on lunchtime on Saturday. So, I watched it. It was a poor game. They didn't really look like they were they wanted to get anything from it. It was a silly own goal. Southampton just easily won the game. So I think that Arsenal will definitely be disappointed with that. But yeah, as you said, someone else is going to win the FA Cup now. It's given a chance to other teams, and with other big teams going out as well. This looks like it's going to be an interesting road to the final.
Yes, it will be. Well, one of the teams that won't be fighting for the final is Liverpool. They're out of the cup after a thrilling game against Manchester United, which they lost 3-2 thanks to a Bruno Fernandes free kick. But will Liverpool be kicking themselves a little bit because they dominated periods of the game? I think that's the best we've seen Liverpool play in a little bit of time, which is a little bit weird, really. We're not seeing Liverpool play very good quite recently, but they dominate periods of the game. But for Klopp, he hasn't made it past the 5th round at all in his time at Liverpool. That's kind of mad, that is a little bit.
Yeah, it's mad to think that, how well Liverpool have done in the last few years, and they're not even getting into the 5th round. So, that's a surprise when I heard that because, it's not really what you associate Liverpool with. But yeah, they'll rue their missed chances, won't they? They looked like they were dominating the game at points, but I think Man United they're on such a good run at the moment. I know they lost to Sheffield United the other day, but they're on such a good run in the league. It's always going to be tough to go to Old Trafford and win the game. And I think Man United just took their chances. Liverpool will be disappointed with that and think they could get something from the game. But that's how football is, isn't it? Unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you have the ball a lot, you can still lose the game. So yeah, Liverpool will be disappointed. Man United will be thrilled to go through to the next round. They probably, they'll be confident they can try and get to the final in this one. But another 4th round exit for Liverpool.
Yes, and a team that had a very good cup run. I think we could say the surprise package of the FA Cup. Surely, yes, the lowest ranked side left in the FA Cup. National League North, the 6th tier of football, and they were unable to cause an upset against Wolves. But I think we have to say, Chorley can take all the credit away from this game. Despite losing 1-0, the Premier League quality shine through. But to lose 1-0 to a team in the Premier League, I think that's a victory in their eyes, really, even though they didn't get through to the next round.
Yeah, exactly. They'll have their heads held high, or really high after this. It was a fantastic goal from Wolves from. I can't pronounce it. Is it Vitinha?
Vitinha.
Yeah. I think he hasn't really played for Wolves, has he, since he signed? So, what a goal from him that kind of killed the game off. You didn't think surely we're going to get anything from it, but to keep it at 1-0 for, it was 12th minute that Wolves scored. To keep it 1-0 from then, that's a massive achievement from them. Even though they went out, they'll be massively happy to get to the 4th round, and it's great to see a non-league team go that far because it's very rare that it happens nowadays. The last time it was Sutton, wasn't it, and Lincoln done it a few years ago. But it's really good to see a team can't get to the fourth round and be competitive in it, because Wolves could have easily gone and thrashed them, but credit to them because they put in a fight and they've done themselves proud.
Yes, they have done themselves proud, and that's everything for the FA Cup fourth round roundup. I think we've got the fifth round soon. I think at some point next month, isn't it?
Yes, and I know that Man City have got a championship team.
Yes. Man City have always got the easy ties, but we'll just skim over that. But I think we have to just give a little credit there to Cheltenham Town, who actually scored against Man City and were actually winning for a period of time. And I actually was going, can they do it? And then unfortunately, Man City hit back. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Chelsea. Well, we're not going to talk about Chelsea, actually. We've got an interview. Yes, we've got an interview with a Chelsea fan talking about what's been going on quite recently at Chelsea about Frank Lampard and Thomas Tuchel. Yes, that is correct. Thomas Tuchel, the former PSG manager. What's he linked with Chelsea for? We don't know. We'll find out after this.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Dan, before we move on with the show, I've been mentioning social medias, Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of the previous shows, or even this one, if you missed Dan talk about Ipswich Town and missed us talking about the FA Cup fourth round, don't worry, I've got you covered. It's going to be on YouTube and Mixcloud at 6 p.m. Now, Dan, I've been talking about, we've got this interview coming up, talking about Chelsea, Lampard, and Thomas Tuchel, and what they all got linked. Well, after 18 months in charge of Chelsea, Frank Lampard was sacked on Monday morning after 58 games as the boss. 28 wins, 11 draws, 18 losses, but 2 wins from their previous 8 games, which I think was 5 defeats, or as many defeats in the last 23. The lowest points per games under Bramwich era, only 1.67, a second worst win percentage ratio under the Bramwich era, was enough for Frank Lampard at his time at Chelsea, and it was called a day by Roman Bramwich. Yeah, not too great. But earlier this week, I spoke to Piers about Lampard's departure, what he thought of that, and the appointment of Thomas Tuchel. Yes, Chelsea have already appointed a new manager in Thomas Tuchel. So here, what he's got to say about it.
Hello, Piers. Welcome. You're back on Pitchside Talk. We're talking about something that's close to your heart. I think we could say Chelsea Football Club. Been a busy week.
It takes over your life at this club. It's sort of like a disease, I guess.
Yeah. Well, after 18 months in charge of Chelsea, Lampard and Chelsea have parted companies on Monday morning after 58 games in charge, leading to 28 victories, 11 draws and 18 losses. A top 4 finish last season, an FA Cup runners medal for Frank Lampard's time, but the 5 defeats in the last 8 games, or as many defeats in the last 23, has seen Chelsea slip down the table from 9th to 3rd in 1 month. And that's the lowest points per game as well under the Bramwich era, which was enough for Roman Bramwich to call time on Frank Lampard's managerial time at Chelsea. Kind of a shock, really. I think we saw reports were coming through about this happening. It wasn't, and then it's all put on the back burner, but I think when on Friday, Lampard was asked about it, he didn't know about the pressure. But Piers, was the right decision made here? Because Frank Lampard, this is the first bit of form, really. And I think we're quite surprised that the club haven't sort of supported him. There is talks about some players went to the hierarchy. This is all rumours about, Frank Lampard and, all this, that. But the one big sticking point is here, he spent £220 million in the summer window. And by Bramwich standards, that is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, obviously, I think I understand why Chelsea done what they done. I think, the way that they were slipping down the table and that, key players like Werner and Havertz weren't performing. Chelsea have those huge standards for their players. So I understand it. Myself personally, I don't think it's the right decision. I think, people will disagree with this, but I think just because of how much of a club legend Frank Lampard is, and to take the responsibility to take that job in the first place when Sarri had left and we had nobody, I think it was a big call from him, and I think he should at least be given till the end of the season, just for what a legend he was. I understand we were in bad form, and I understand we were slipping down the table, but you've got to look at what he has actually done at this club. I know we didn't win the Super Cup final, and I know we didn't win the FA Cup final, but first of all, to get the FA Cup final with that team was an achievement. A team that was on a transfer ban, a team that everybody was joking, saying we're going to get relegated, ninth, 10th. Most pundits said 7th. To come fourth, basically third, joint with Manchester United, a team that spent a ridiculous amount of money themselves, and then to bring in 4 or 5 brilliant young English players. I mean, you had Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Tomori, Reece James, and obviously the Scottish Billy Gilmore. He came in himself, to have these key players coming. I think Frank Lampard done a lot for the club, and it's not like we weren't even terrible in that first season. So I think for what he'd done in that first season, I think he needed a chance now. And with players like Kai Havertz, I think it's time that you need. I mean, it's taken Pogba four seasons to finally get going. And I think with Havertz, he suffered from COVID. He suffered from the long effects of COVID. So I think it takes time for him to get into his own. So I think with time they would have got better. But I obviously understand why Chelsea have done it for the club that they are and for the expectations they have.
Yeah, unfortunately, he is now gone, and it looks like Thomas Tuchel is set to be the new head coach of Chelsea, replacing Frank Lampard. But at this time of recording this, he hasn't been confirmed yet, which is slightly concerning because all the little things saying that, little minor details on that, and apparently it's supposed to be confirmed on the Monday evening, but it hasn't been confirmed. But the former PSG and Borussia Dortmund manager has had success. He has won trophies, won the German Cup. He's won 2 French championships with PSG. He also took PSG to the Champions League final last season, the first time in their history. And he's got a very good points per game with Borussia Dortmund and PSG, averaging over 2 points per game with both sides. But Piers, I remember you told me a few weeks ago that you didn't want Tuchel when the Lampard rumour started to build a little bit of momentum. You didn't want him if Frank Lampard left. Have you changed your mind a little bit on him? Because it looks like he's going to be a very popular member in that Chelsea group. He's worked with Thiago Silva, he's worked with Christian Pulisic, he's got Kai Havertz, and he's got Timo Werner, 2 German players. We know that Rudiger and Jorginho were rumoured to go into PSG at some point. And he's got experience. He's worked in different environments. He's worked with Mainz. He's worked with Borussia Dortmund, a very good side, strapped for money. PSG, a very big side with money, and he's got success out of Mbappe and Neymar. Can he do the same at Chelsea? This is the big call here. Chelsea. He hasn't got on well with the hierarchy at Borussia Dortmund and PSG, which did lead to him being sacked or leaving the club, working with Roman, and he's going to be like that. It's not going to end well for him, is it?
Yeah, no. Tuchel wasn't my first choice. He definitely wasn't my first choice, just for the way things ended at PSG and the way things fell off for him. I think it shows that is what will happen at Chelsea towards the end, especially with transfers. You look at Antonio Conte, won Chelsea the league after they'd finished 10th, and they wouldn't let him buy the players he wanted. He wanted Romelu Lukaku, and they wouldn't let him get him. So, and also recently with Frank Lampard, apparently it came out that he wanted Declan Rice badly, but if the club don't want him, the club don't want him. So that could be how it ends. But now that he's here, or he's almost here at the time of this recording, I will obviously back him. I know he's done great work in Germany and obviously in France with PSG. So I know he's a good manager. What I heard from him is that he doesn't tell players what to do themselves. So he tells them what to do on the pitch, but when they've got the ball themselves in their position, they're the masters of their own realm in that way. So I think that will really help young players like Mason Mount and Hudson-Odoi really, get their creative play flowing. And like you said, with players that he's worked with before, like Thiago Silva, I think it will be brilliant. I think he's got a big task ahead of him. Chelsea, they've got high expectations, but he's got the players. He's obviously German, so it worked in Germany as well. So it will help with players like Havertz and Werner. But I don't know what the board's expectations are for the rest of the season. Surely it can't be that they want him to win the title. I'm sure if he could get Europe, I would say that's a success. If he could just fight for top 4, I would be happy with that after how it's gone. And obviously next season, I'm sure they'll expect him to win the league.
Well, some interesting opinions there from Piers. Thank you very much, Piers, for joining us here for this little Chelsea interview.
No problem.
And let's hope that Thomas Tuchel does well at Chelsea this time.
Hope so.
So, Dan, we've just heard what Piers has had to say on Chelsea, the decisions. But what are your thoughts? on Frank Lampard's departure? Was it the right call? Because I think if we think about it, it was only his first bit of bad form really under Chelsea that was noticeable.
Yeah, it was. When I saw the news, I was like Piers. I understood it. I think, it's been a poor season by Chelsea standards, and it's a bad run of form, and they want to be up there fighting. So I understand why they did it. But yeah, it was still quite a surprise, wasn't it? I wasn't expecting it at this point in the season. I don't think. And by what Chelsea fans are saying, they wanted Lampard to stay. He's got such a connection to the club. He's a legend there, isn't he? So they're going to want him to stay. And I think he could have been given a bit more of a chance. He had such a good first season. He got them into the top four with pretty much no transfer. Where they had a transfer ban, didn't they? I think that ended. I can't remember when that ended. I think
it ended in January of last year.
Yeah, so he still had that whole summer before, without any transfers coming in. So to get them into fourth place in his first season, that was a great achievement. But it's kind of just run its course now, I think. Obviously, the owners don't think that he can get them to where Chelsea want to be, and they brought in a new manager. So. I think it's really unfortunate for him, and I would have expected them to give him till the end of the season, as Piers said. But yeah, I still understand why they've done it.
Well, his new appointment, Thomas Tuchel, has taken over Chelsea. I think when we record that interview, it was about 2 hours before he was even appointed, which was slightly annoying. After we did that recording, I was like, why can they just announce him? When we were doing that, it would be kind of cool. But he's the new head coach of Chelsea, and he has managed his first game already, 0-0 draw against Wolves. But Dan, can he succeed at Chelsea like he did at Borussia Dortmund, PSG? He's won trophies. He won the German Cup at Borussia Dortmund. He took in PSG to the Champions League final, first time in their history last season and last year. Won 2 French championships with them. But his 2 previous sackings have been both clubs, and it has been fallen out with the hierarchy at the clubs. So that is a bit of a problem in itself. But he is a very good manager at the end of the day, we can say.
Yeah, he is a good manager, and I think that was a good appointment by Chelsea. I think Piers said it wasn't his first choice, but I still think it was a good appointment. As you said, these last jobs he was sacked because of the hierarchy, and I think that could be a problem at Chelsea. We all know what they're like there. They get through managers quite quickly, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he gets on with them and to see how well he does. Getting results, to see if he can turn this bad run of form around, because there's still time to turn it around. So yeah, as I said, a good manager. He's done well at previous clubs. He's fell out with owners, but that happens. So I hope he does well, because he's got a really good chance to do well at Chelsea. I think it's going to be interesting to see if he can get them anything this season. He had a 0-0 to start with. Can't really judge him on that, really. It's his first game. He's only just come in. So let's see how he does the rest of the season. If he can get them up fighting for the top 4, then it'll be good to see.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Let us know. What do you think, Thomas Tuchel? And do you agree with Piers' thoughts? Now, let us know on Twitter at Pitchside Talk. When we come back, Dan, we're going to have enough time to do a football roundup.
Hey.
Hooray!
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And Dan, as I teased in the last league, it's time for a football roundup. Hooray!
Hooray!
Hey, we like it. Well, you're going to go first this week. You've got some football news. Spill the beans, please.
Yeah. I have to say it's been quite slow, the news this week. But I have got some Ipswich news. Grion Edwards was talking to the club, or someone, I think Stuart Watson or someone. EADT. That's a mouthful. But yeah, he was talking about his contract coming up at the end of the season, and he said there's been no talks for a new contract. We're now nearly in February, and there's no talks for a new contract, and he just wants to play, which is a little bit worrying.
That is a bit worrying. I think is he still the top goal scorer this season, if I'm correct?
What? Yeah, but I think he's got 3.
Okay, but he still is the top goal scorer area.
Yeah. Well. Oh, that's just awful, isn't it?
Yes.
No, I think does Nolan have 4? He might have 4. I don't know. Maybe he has 3 as well. Can't remember.
I don't know. I've forgotten. He's somebody's boy, isn't he? Guion Edwards. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I've got some news for you this week. We've got some Premier League news. We've had some midweek games, and we've had a change at the top of the table. Yes, Manchester City now lead the Premier League with 41 points after a victory over West Brom 5-0. And Manchester United could have returned to the top, but they lost 2-1 to Sheffield United. Yes, Sheffield United, the team that haven't been there at all for half the season.
You sound very excited about this.
I'm not excited at all. There's adding some energy to it, Dan. That's what you got. You've got to be positive in life. And they've just lost to Sheffield United, a team that haven't been there at all for half the season. Sheffield United are only now, I think, 4 points off Derby County's record.
Wow.
I think I hear Derby County fans are sweating a little bit there on their brows, ever so slightly. But yeah, Manchester City are now at the top, and they have a game in hand as well, which is concerning because it looks like they might have one hand on that title. We don't know. Only speculation. But Dan, we're at the end of the show.
We are. Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, it's been a good one. We talked about Ipswich Town. I know it's not a good thing, but we've talked about Ipswich Town. We've talked about the FA Cup. We've talked about the Premier League.
Yeah.
Will you be joining me next week for next week's show when we probably talk about Ipswich Town again against Crew? Hopefully, touch wood, a win. Fingers crossed as well.
Don't count your horses.
I try not to, but I have to look at the positive side on life here at the moment.
You're the unbiased one here, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I am unbiased, aren't I? Yeah. I have to agree with that one. So yeah, you're going to be joining for next week as always.
Yeah, as always.
As always, good to hear. Well, what have we got coming up after us? We've got the Gap Show 6 till 7, the Reba Show 7 till 9, and Flip the Switch 9 until 10. And also I've got social media, Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube Mixcloud, both at Pitch Talk. If you want to listen back to any previous shows or even this one, if you missed anything, they'll be up in a few minutes' time, 6 p.m. on a Friday. So I've been George. He's been Dan as always. We'll see you next week, and ciao.
Bye.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.